Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Now, my guest for today is an oracle of knowledge tested through the centuries of marketing testing. He's a senior director of content and marketing at MECLABS Institute, which is also marketing Sherpas, marketing experiments. These are the testing Jedi masters in the marketing realm. So if you don't know about them, you're about to. He's also a writer, a speaker, and a family man. Daniel Burstein, how are you, sir?
Good to be here, Casey. You know, part of what you're doing in marketing is you're setting customer expectations. So I think we need to take two and set those expectations about 10 rungs lower.
Lower them a little bit. You don't have your cloak, your Jedi cloak on just yet?
I think we're going to get going today.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So the theme for today and why you're here, and it's a perfect tie-in, and this is that CSI we're talking about, that roadmap for maximizing marketing automation. We're seeing people out there with a tool, not really using it to its fullest potential, just blasting like their MailChimp. And so we created a roadmap for people. So every month has been a different theme. We've gotten to know our buyers. We've set up ROI tracking. We've done all sorts of things. And now we're at the point where it's all about testing, evaluating, optimizing. But I think testing's a bigger thing than we even thought. But what I want to do is say, based on the fact that it's about testing and marketing, I want to pass you Thor's hammer and smash a myth for me. What do you want to just bogus strategy you're hearing out there, or maybe some misconceptions about what marketing testing really is? Smash away.
Well, here's the biggest myth I see, right? And I'm sure you've heard this in meetings. Like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't buy that. I wouldn't take this action.
I've said that.
I wouldn't do that. Right. Yeah. So let's say you're a CMO, your marketing director, presents you an offer that's coming up or something like that, or you're looking at your agency present to you and they've got, different copy that they think would go well, or an email or something like this. You see that and you're like, I would never click on that. I would never buy that. And so what I would say is, who cares? Right? Who cares what you would do if you are not your customer and you're not your customer?
Right.
And so I think so when we talk about testing, that is the most boring term in the world, isn't it? I mean, can you think back to school? It's test day.
True.
I know, Casey, you were not excited about testing. You were not coming in like, yay, today we get to
I showed up, but not exactly stoked about that. Yeah.
And that's the same thing, testing, that itself sounds boring, but what testing really is we need to break down this false obstacle we have between us and our customers, because we're not our customers. So we can't sit in a boardroom, look at creative, think of an offer, think of our product and say, I'd do this. I wouldn't do that. You got to remember, wait, who cares? Yeah. It's not me, it's the customer. So what I brought today, I got 6 examples of how we do that, how I've done that.
Really?
And then we can also talk about obviously how to overcome it, how to work testing into what you're doing. So
let's do it, because I am guilty of this. I remember sitting, watching a commercial and being like, that's the shittiest commercial I've ever seen. I could do way better. Right? Like but thinking back to what the product is, maybe I'm not the intended audience, So break it down for us. How do we do this? Help me fix myself.
Well, let's take a look at some examples of how this happens. Because, you can be skeptical, you can be listening. I listen to podcasts. Well, that's not me. You're talking about someone else. It's the other guy. It's not me.
Right. Yeah, not me.
But,
somebody else.
But here's examples of how we do it in the negative, but also in the positive of where we think our product is the best thing ever. And oh my gosh, and we've got this stuff. Everybody's going to want it, chomping at the bit, right? I've heard that too. So the first one, here's an example. I'm going to start out by using myself and my own failings is, sometimes we're a different demographic from our audience, right? So for me, when I started out as a copywriter, my first job out of college, I was writing copy. It was even like before digital days. So I was writing, print ads for property in just outside of Vail, Colorado. It's called Bachelor Gulch Village. Very, very high-end property, ski and ski out condos. The people that buy this are very, very wealthy. So I'm sitting there and I remember presenting a concept to my boss about something it had to do, I forget, with sleeping in or waking up at 11 or something like that. And then, whatever you do. And my boss says to me, these people are like CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. They're not waking up at 10 o'clock. They're waking up at like 5 a.m. And by then, they've already worked out and they're checking the markets in Asia and they're this and this. And this. But I'm straight out of college. You know, in college, Casey, I didn't take a class if it happened before noon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those are
So
tough.
right, waking up with an alarm clock. Can you imagine? So in my pea-sized, 21-year-old brain, I'm thinking, well, if I'm a rich Fortune 500 CEO, I'm sleeping in every day, right?
Yeah.
So that's a
Right.
perfect example, right? It's a perfect example.
Yeah.
We're not always a demographic of our customer. It could be a different gender, different socioeconomic status, live in a different region. There are many ways that we can be a different demographic. And again, and we'll get to, and this is how testing and some of these things can help break down that artificial barrier, because it's hard to get into someone else's head.
You know, it's interesting because, I I had a conversation with a group that was doing some marketing for the jet, it's like timeshares for jets, private jets.
Yes.
And they were kind of talking like, hey, we're all this, we're all that. But one of the things I discovered was that, and you had to learn a little bit more about, you have some rich friends and you realize that that super rich person isn't scheduling or buying or even shopping the jet. It's more of like, hey, I want this. Go. And they've got that household, secretary. They've got a whole team of people that are figuring it out. And so really the people they're marketing to is that staff of that person. It
Yep.
was like a mind twist. They weren't going after the rich guy or gal. They were going after the staff, their team. And they, by missing it, they were just confusing everyone. It's weird.
Right, because you don't live that life. Me and you, we buy a car, we buy a plane ticket, right? So in our demographic, we're thinking they're buying a jet. In their demographic, they're not, right? They're not even thinking of that. They're thinking, hey, my person, my agent, my whoever is buying it, right? So it's a perfect way to step up. And it's hard to look. We actually did a case study with a fractional jet ownership company, and so we had an event out in Las Vegas, and I was interviewing him there, and I was like, hey, so you fly on one of those jets out to Vegas to take, and he's like, no, we don't get to do that, But again, I mean, that brings up probably a whole other.
Too bad, right?
That would be the benefit of working at that company. But it brings up probably a whole other issue. We can go on a million divergences, but when you're not living your customer's life, when you're not living that experience, if you're not living that sales path, how do you really understand how they interact with and work with your product, and how can you overcome that? You might not be able to fly that private jet, but then what are you going to do? So it was very famous in GM in the bad old days. They didn't get the car. They didn't go to the dealership, buy a car, those executives. They got these special cars. They weren't getting the cars off the production line. They weren't having to go see what it's like to shop for a car and haggle and get all this stuff. So they're like, and you're living in two worlds. It's like, what's wrong with it? Our cars are great.
Right.
You know what I mean? We got top of the line cars. These are perfect, right? Because you're not experiencing what the customer is. So again, that's a type of testing.
Yeah, they had inadvertently or vertedly isolated themselves from the experience that all of their customers had gone through. And obviously we know that didn't work out well for them in the end. That's crazy.
If you don't live your customer's experience, how can you optimize your customer's experience? How can you test and learn about it? So.
Right, exactly. You won't even know what questions to ask to test.
Yeah. So let's talk about another way we do this. Yeah. So sometimes we have a different device use preference, right? So I remember, back in probably it was about 10 years ago, you go to a digital marketing conference when iPhones were fairly new, and the mobile marketing speaker would get up there and he'd say, hey, who's got an iPhone, right? And everyone would raise their hand, and he's like, see, everyone's got an iPhone. And in reality, it's not that everyone has an iPhone. It's that all digital marketers have an iPhone.
Right.
So if your audience is digital marketers, then yes, you should probably have been on the iPhone in the beginning and had apps and all this stuff. If your audience is, 80-year-old retirees buying Medicare Advantage insurance, or especially 10 years ago, it might be different today. I bet you they weren't on the iPhone yet.
They might still have a landline at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you can't just look at yourself and your peer group. I'm on this device. I've got the latest and greatest iPhone 10. Do you have an international audience? Is it someone in India? What type of device are they using? How fast is their connection? How are they experiencing your website? How are they experiencing your product? So a great example is, I got a great example. I interviewed Mary Abrahamson. She's an email marketing manager at Ferguson Enterprises. And this was a few years ago, but she's a woman in her 20s, kind of artistic, at the chef, cooks. She's got a cooking blog. But her customers were their plumbers, right? Their HVAC repairmen. And so she was holding events for them. And she quickly learned she was going to have the event signups and a lot of the reminders happen on an app and happen an iPhone, a smartphone. They weren't using them because they aren't on contracting sites. Those things were going to get smashed. They kind of had the fat finger syndrome, and they were using feature phones. So she very smartly gave the updates, and was able to do a lot of things through a feature phone, the old-fashioned type of flip phone type of thing,
Yeah.
right? Instead of, oh, I'm going to do the latest and greatest, have it on an app, have it
Have an
whatever.
app.
Because
No one's gonna
she
get it.
used it, you use it, I use it probably, right? But
Right.
if the plumber and HVAC person is your customer and they don't use it, it's not going to help a lot, right?
That's interesting. I remember bumping into a company that was they were going after their ideal customer was a 2 to 5 retail stores in New York type establishment. It might be like men's formal wear or just any kind of clothing or any kind of small mom and pop chain. So it wasn't just one store. They had several stores, but like the whole email thing, a lot of these people didn't even have a domain or they had a Yahoo address, but it really wasn't the best way to get them. It was like a phone call or it was like a body in their store to meet with them. And yeah, and once we made that kind of flipped that switch, we realized it wasn't going to be a heavy email type of a promotion at all.
Right. That's a great example. Yeah. Living their life. I mean, that brings up, so another one. So you
Yeah.
talk about, do they use email? Do they use, do you have to talk to them in person? Even if you're talking to them in person, even if you find the right channel to talk to them in, do you speak their language? Right? Because I bet those stores, they have a specific language. So we have an international audience, and someone wrote me recently and they were asking for advice on becoming a copywriter. And they're saying, hey, not a native English speaker, can I become a copywriter? What can I do? How can I learn to be a copywriter? And so I told them, hey, we're all non-native in some way. When I started working in the software space and I started working with IBM and some of these companies, I didn't have that experience at that time. And I had to learn a whole new language, right? You have to learn a whole new language. And I have a great example where, we're speaking a different language than another group. So we were talking about testing. We were going to do some testing with Yahoo Mail a few years ago. It's when they just started where they have embedded videos in the mail. And so we're doing some testing about that. And so I connected my team to the person I was working with their team and working on it. And it just kept not getting done. And I couldn't understand why. So I was talking to them like, what's going on? And they're like, well, we told them we need the emails so we can do the testing. And they told us, no, they already did the testing. And then we're like, well, what are the results of the testing? And they said, well, here's the, and it was like so confusing. I couldn't figure out what was going on. But I finally got on the line with the other, person, my contact at Yahoo Mail. I was like, what's going on? And so it turns out we were both using the word testing. We were just using it differently.
Really?
So their team was doing testing, QA, quality assurance testing, right?
Oh.
Tested. They made sure the video worked. They're like, we're done. We've done our
We
thing.
tested it.
Now,
Yeah.
why are you trying to test it? They don't like our job. We're testing it. We, of course, we're trying to do conversion optimization testing, test to see which perform better. Testing in our world means something. Testing in their world means something, and we weren't speaking the same language.
Right.
This is going to happen all the time. You're speaking to, again, in some small retailers, sure, they have their specific language they speak. If you don't speak it, they sense an outsider. For one, they're less interested in purchasing for you. Two, sometimes it just different things mean different things, right? So
Sure.
in the medical space, a great example. We had a research partner we worked with. They did like kidney dialysis.
Well,
I forgot the exact words, but they were using the official, whatever the medical terms for it were. But people aren't searching for this. They're searching for like kidney hurts or whatever they're searching.
Right.
Got the right terms.
Yeah.
But when you nail those terms down, not only does it help with search, but it helps with conversion on that landing page. You're speaking their language. If you're speaking a foreign language, even if it means the same thing, they don't know what you're saying, right?
No idea. No idea. It's interesting. I once worked for a company that in the U.S. but was sort of owned and controlled by a company from Belgium, and they decided they wanted to tell us what marketing to send our audience. And one time they sent us a campaign saying "Happy Gooseberry Season," and I was trying to look. I don't even know what a gooseberry is. I've never had one. I don't know what it is. Is that a season? Is that? And it's a thing. It's like a real thing in Europe, but over here it wasn't. So I was trying to chat through like this is not a thing, gooseberry season. But I really like is that in my head when you said like, can this person, a non-native person, be a copywriter, I'm thinking no way this is possible. But you're right that we're all non-native in some way with especially taking on a new industry. We don't know the terminology. It will sound just as non-native if maybe English was your first language. So we're all learning the language of our customer. That's really interesting.
So let me ask you, right? So you have a background in the Marines, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there is
And
a language, right? The Marines have a language. And when someone is an outsider and they're coming in and they're trying to, they're marketing to you essentially. Maybe they're not trying to sell you a product, but they're trying to get on your good side and
that's
talk
a
with
good
you.
point.
When they don't speak that language, I bet that is a red flag where you can all tell, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they don't really sell too much to Marines. They just figure, jarheads, they'll sell them dip and beef jerky and maybe some Red Bull. But you're right. If to not see those terms or to see an ad from Navy Federal Credit Union, and if they've got someone in an Army uniform, right? If they're even the wrong uniform, that's not even a Marine Corps uniform. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Or worst of all sins, if they said, ex-Marine or something like that. Just come on. Everyone knows that, once a Marine, always a Marine. So go throwing this X around and try to get me to buy something, please.
Yeah. Well, so now you're talking specifically about selling a product, and that's true.
Oh, sure.
But I think there's also selling an idea, right? So if
Mm,
someone came into your, troop or whatever, and they're trying to just get you involved with something, they're trying to show that they're not an outsider. They're, journalist or whoever it may be, a consultant, and they're trying to say we're one of you. Because the same thing
that's a good
happens.
point.
Here's where it often happens too. If an agency is trying to sell a client, or a marketing manager is trying to sell their business leader. So if you, for example, social media is a great example. If you go to your, business manager, CMO, business level person, and you're saying, we're getting likes and tweets and engagements and blah, blah, blah. You're not speaking their language either, right? Like if you've ever been on an earnings call and if that leader went on an earnings call and said, we got a lot of likes this month, that's not their language. Their language is, ROI, their language is earnings per share. But,
Yeah.
that's where it's important too. You need to speak their language there. Where it's not. Sometimes we're just selling ideas to each other, right? We're not only
True.
always selling products.
Yeah, not even a product, just trying to get buy-in. Like you mentioned troop earlier, like, hey, it's not it's for a Marine, it'd be a platoon, right? So right away,
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
I'm disconnect. Wait, troop? What? Who's that? Boy Scouts? So,
right,
yeah.
right. So if I came in and I was like, "Hey guys, this is a great troop. We're doing good,"
Yeah.
you'd be like, "This guy
Who's
over
this
here."
guy?
Yes, exactly.
Totally.
So, but in fairness, I would have done my research first. I would have done a little
Yes.
testing. I would have probably pulled you to the side first and been like, "Hey, let me know here. Am I speaking your language? What's going on?" And that's what we're talking about with testing. It's
Right.
really doing this first before you're going out to customers, before you're sending that gooseberry email, looking like a gooseberry, right? It's kind of
Right.
testing with your customers and seeing what works.
Yeah, like even, in the movies having that, military liaison in a movie to say that this is accurate or not, or like a
Yeah,
scientist to say it's accurate or not. So it doesn't alienate everybody watching it. Go, that's not how this would work. That's not, or they salute the wrong way. You're like, "Dude, you spent $20 million on this movie and you couldn't get them to salute the right way, please."
no, it's bringing in that native speaker or interpreter. And
Yeah.
for us, sometimes that's example customers talking to, not being
Right.
afraid to actually have conversations and talking with example customers and showing them things and feeling them out of like, how does this go? How does that go? What do you think of this or that or something?
Right.
So we did a great case study with Finish Line at one point, and they had, do you know what on fleek means? Because I didn't know.
On
That wasn't my
fleet,
language. Yeah, on fleek.
like EN, like N fleet or on
No,
fleet.
fleek, like FLEEK.
Oh, fleek? No.
Yeah, so I had no clue, and so but they did Finish Line, and I assume they have a pretty heavy like millennial and kind of younger
Is it the shoes people?
group they're selling to. Yeah,
Okay.
the shoes people, and so they had an ad about being on fleek or something, and I had no idea what it meant, but some younger folks who worked here, they kind of showed me there was a meme going around, and on fleek meant I guess you're dressed good or dressed
Ah.
to the nines, right?
Yeah, I
But
just
again,
Googled it. It says extremely good, attractive, or stylish
yeah,
fleek.
exactly.
Dude, how
So
old are we? We have no idea.
so that's what it helps. So
I've never heard that.
if you're marketing to, and that's just one example, but if you're marketing to even a younger set, if you've got folks in your office or agency or whatever, hey, it helps. This is a thing that's really changed in my career. I don't know if you felt this too. When I was coming up, I mean, when you were young, you were at the bottom. I mean, you worked your way up, right? The
Right.
older people had
Right.
seniority, you were trying to learn from them. And an interesting thing has happened now. A lot of the younger folks, they have a knowledge and just a native ability to understand things that we don't, with social media, with Snapchat, with some of these interactions and some of the language.
Sure.
And so looking at them too, also as subject matter experts in some of these things, I think is very powerful. So something to think about. Anytime I speak at colleges, because I speak at colleges around here to classes,
Oh,
especially a
cool.
social media class, I'd say this is the leg up you have, right? I didn't have this really when I was coming up. There was nothing. There wasn't as much that people were trying to learn about, in social media. You know more about social media and who's ever interviewing you for a job,
True.
right? So you need to learn the business side, or all that social media knowledge is going to help.
True.
But that is your leg up. So
Yeah, that made it challenging for me because I was looking at going back and getting an MBA, but one thing I was like, I couldn't stand if I went back and took a social media class and, and I've got like 10x the followers of the professor trying to teach me what a like and a tweet is. So I can imagine that it's a benefit for the younger guys coming up and gals, but it can also be frustrating. And maybe that's some of the source of where, we're like, I already know that. I don't want to sit here and learn that, but not to tangent on millennials, but yeah.
But I mean, for us too, if anyone's got millennial on their team, reporting to them at their agency, it's very easy to overlook them. But for us, that testing mindset is that we don't know everything. We're forming hypotheses. We're trying to learn. And so being open to them and seeing what you can learn.
I found that babysitters are great for testing millennial or like younger language, because to see if my babysitter's free to watch our kids, I use Snapchat, right? And then every now and then I'll use some word that I think is a younger word, and then when you get the eye roll, that's no longer the words,
That's not using that in my campaign.
Right. Yep.
That's not going to work.
Don't use that. Ugh.
Yeah. So let's talk about another one. So,
Okay. Yep.
So there's different day-to-day technology use. So I see this often. So here's an example from our just a few days ago. We have a video production facility here. We have a green screen, all that stuff. And so we're producing a video. My video guy comes to me and he says, "Hey, in this video, the scratching of the lapel on his suit is driving me crazy. It's horrible." And I was like, "Okay, let me listen to it." So I pull it up my laptop. I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's fine." He's like, I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna do an audio wash, I'm gonna levels, I'm gonna this, I'm gonna that, and take all this time." So I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So the difference is where we're not our customer sometimes is my video guy, he's got studio monitor quality speakers. Boom. He's got crazy Bose headsets or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? I'm watching it, most for audience, because we're going to put it on YouTube or whatever. I got these tinny speakers on this Dell laptop. I can right. But if you've got all those devices, well, you can really hear it. And so we have to realize that we are not experiencing the marketing, the advertising, the website the same way our customers do. And this is especially true if so for example, if you're creating an ad in a newspaper, like you're going to look at it, we would print it out, big color, beautiful. That's not how people see it. They see it in a busy newspaper with everything else. Not to mention, they're sitting there waiting for the subway, whatever.
Yeah.
So we created an ad. We worked with a nonprofit called the Burstein Foundation, and they try to help find missing kids. They put signs in minor league baseball stadiums as a former minor league pitcher. And so when we were creating the ad, the video, we realized, again, we're watching in our studio, perfect screen, perfect sound, it's great. But then you got to realize and say, wait a minute, this is going to be played between innings in a bright stadium on a washed out screen, the parents there, the Jumbotron, the kid wants to have some peanuts, there has to pee, they want to leave, it's a very distracted way of viewing it. They're not looking at it. So we can't think they're going to absorb everything we say. There's things that we got to do to, oversaturate it. There's things we got to do to put words on the screen. There's things that we got to do to simplify the message, because they're not going to give it their undivided attention. So again, that's again where the customer intimacy helps understanding how your customers are going to experience what you're showing them.
Right. I mean, it's so true, because if you get that wrong, you might have 300 words on the screen and nobody can see it. It flashes too quickly. And, I always, that's my biggest complaint, those yard sale signs, when they write with tiny, size 8 font and you're driving by, you're like, hey, give me an arrow. That's all I really need. Give me an arrow. Tell me maybe an hours is a bonus, but just an arrow this way, not some address. It's cryptic. I can't see just understanding. And that's not really the tech side, but that same thing can happen if I design it on a big laptop, a big monitor, and then somebody else is seeing it on their phone.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking at a billboard on your art director's big, beautiful screen, you guys are sitting there and reading. Yeah, it's great. That's not how anyone's seeing it. So even with email. So one thing that helps with us with email, like getting more closer, more intimate with your customers, is we have email. We write them very much to people, right? So it comes from a person, and we tell them. We ask them. We always say in there, hey, you can write back to us. And so sometimes, some people write back and they're like, where's this or where's that? And we're like, what are you talking about? Because we have it, obviously you have a subject line in email, then you have the different things in there.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes we thought it was very clear that the second article is what's talked about in the subject line, but it wasn't clear to them. And so that's where you can kind of step back and be like, okay, how is, what they're seeing different from what I'm seeing?
What I'm saying.
Can be
I hate when you try to reply to an email and it's like a do not reply address.
Yes.
Done. Sometimes it's feedback like, hey, this link's broken. I want to tell you, and I can't.
That's if I know, your clients using a marketing automation platform. They're doing a lot of email. I've written about this before. The do not reply email is the craziest thing to do. It's like if you ran a TV ad and then you had people walk in your store from your TV ad and you just gave them the finger. Every person that walked in, you just flipped them off. That's essentially what you're doing.
Boom.
Right. You're taking it blows my mind. You're taking the time to send this email to people.
Yeah.
People who actually choose to respond to, which is what you want. These people have many different options. They're very busy in the marketplace. They're choosing to respond, and you're saying, no, we really could care less what you have to say.
Click my damn link. Call my phone. Yeah.
So that's a whole. We go on tangent all day about that. But
we could vent on that all day.
Everything. But I'll bring up another one.
Yeah.
Different web browsers specifically, right? So one thing that was going back to the world of print and the land of print. The great thing about it was you would have that print ad, you'd have that brochure, and that was done, man. And everyone thought when you had that brochure printed out, I know how everyone was going to see that brochure, how everyone was going to see the print ad. Now there are so many different browser combinations and device combinations and email platform combinations. There could be so many different ways that people can experience your website.
Yeah.
So we redesigned our website a few years ago, and I'm meeting with a tech team, and they're saying, realistically, which browsers you're optimizing it for can affect what's going to be on the website. And they said, okay, here are the browsers that we're using, and here are the ones where it's just not going to be the best experience for. So the challenge is some of those are older versions of Internet Explorer. And if you look at our traffic, a few percent, 1%, not very much. And so the tech team logically said, hey, we're not going to bother with this group. It's only 1 or 2%. It's not worth it. But here's the problem. We have, as our clients, our research partners that we do services for, we had a lot of big banks that we worked with. And big banks tend to have older versions of Internet Explorer just because of the security concerns they have and the upgrades and all the things they have to do.
Totally. Yep.
So you could look at your traffic and you can say, it's only 1% that's using this browser. I'm not going to waste the time on it. But if that 1% is the 1% of decision makers who are going to decide to buy your product and they get an unoptimized version of your website, that's a huge mistake. So understand, again, I'm using like Chrome, I'm using Firefox, that's probably the type of stuff we tend to use. But I understand there's a big percentage that are using the default, Microsoft Edge or Explorer that's on the laptop. They're using older, versions of browsers. Understand who your customers are and what type of browser they're using. Just because you don't use it, just because me and you don't use it, I don't care about Explorer. I don't care about IE6. Doesn't mean your customers feel the same way.
That's so true. Don't just believe the percentage. Hey, 89.7% of our visitors come to the website with these browsers. Great. But to your point, you might be leaving these other ones behind. We actually once worked with a client that they really wanted this email optimized, and it's wizardry to get all the browsers, at least all the more recent browsers, to be happy.
Right.
Maybe some archaic ones. There's like certain emulators where you can kind of craft it, see what it looks like. But the challenge they had was they also wanted it to look good in Lotus Notes. And pretty much the way this rolls is that you can make an email look great in every single browser on the planet, just not Lotus Notes, or Lotus Notes and not every other single, right? You got to pick one or the other because it's so old. I won't tell you which direction they went, but but it was a major dilemma.
Yeah. And that's so. At least kudos to them for thinking of it. And then that's the question of like, where are your customers? Who are your customers? And who should we prioritize? So, all right, the last one.
Yes.
This is something that we all face this. So, some of those sometimes we are in the same demographic as our customers. It's not impossible for that to happen. If we say, I like On Fleek, they might like On Fleek too, but I will guarantee you, each and every one of us have a different view of our companies or our clients' companies than the customers do, right? We have this intimacy and understand. We spend 40, 47, 50, whatever it is, hours a week focused on our companies, on our websites, on our emails, and we experience them in a totally different way they do because we're entirely bought in. So give you a quick example of that. I was talking to a marketer in a nonprofit. He was a marketing manager or whatever, and he works on the website. He designed the way that they donate on the website. And one of the, higher level, one of the people who run the nonprofit came to him and said, "Hey, I was trying to donate on the website and I couldn't figure out how." And he's like, "What are you talking about? It's right there on the website,
Right.
So he goes, he's like, "Come on, let's go." Like if you ever have something with your internal IT department, I don't know about you, but I always feel like they always feel like it's my fault. It's user error, right?
Yes.
No,
Totally.
it can't be broken. It's you. You don't know
Totally.
how to use it yet. Did you push the button? You need to push
Mortals.
the button. Yeah.
Yeah. Civilians. Come on. You don't know how to
Yeah.
use
Right.
command line prompt. Please, people. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes. So long story short, goes to the guy's computer and he's like, "Okay, well, here, show me what you're doing." So he goes and he's like, and the guy's trying to find it and he's like, "No, it's there. It's here. It's here. It's there. It's boom. It's there." And then he realized he's like, "Oh wow." He's like, "I know this because I designed the whole thing and I spend every day on the website where it is." He's like, "This guy even works for the company." To an outsider that's not spending all this time going through this, they don't have a clue. And so we can't look at our websites and our emails and all these things through our own eyes. We really have to try to look through our customers' eyes, because again, they're not going to take, if they're going to your website to donate, what are they giving you? 5 seconds, 10 seconds? They're not going to take this time to really in depth. Okay, study the website. Where is it? Is it over here?
Oh.
Not. You've got to make it smooth, painless, remove the friction to make it easy for them. And on top of that, we have this blind spot, right? Because we want them to do something. We're bought into the company on a certain level. We want them to take this conversion action. We want them to do this thing because it's our company, right?
Sure.
So we were working with a PR agency. We had an event and they put out this press release, a good PR agency, but about, it's like the world's greatest marketing event is coming to Las Vegas and blah, blah, boom, blah, blah,
Cool.
And I was like, well, thank you for stroking my ego. And I certainly on some level believe it's the world's greatest marketing event because I'm putting it on. But I mean, come on, in reality here, we got to think like the customer. And when you see that, your first thought is like,
right?
give me a break, right? And so we really have to do with, and where testing helps and where the entire methodology we're going to talk about helps, is step out of our own shoes, not think of what demographic we are, not think of I would do that, I wouldn't do that, I don't care. Right. Not think of our product is the most amazing thing in the world, and really say like, okay, as a customer, what do customers experience? And then getting back to our original conversation topic, that is where testing is so powerful. You can actually see customer behavior in real time. So you can't fool yourself. You can say, I thought this would work. I thought I didn't like this. I thought I didn't like that.
Right.
You actually see, oh, wow, I can get 20% more revenue by using this headline instead of that one, because that's what resonates with them. Even though I didn't get it, that's what resonates with them.
Right. Which is why it's important to even test things that are crazy, because they seem crazy to you, but to all 6 of these, you may not be your platform, not your demographic, your own lens is all these things, all these different lenses are clouding this testing. So I guess with that said, I mean, where do you start, right? So I'm sold. I want to get out of my own head here, in my headspace, and I want to actually think in terms of, what's important to the customer. So where do you start?
So one place to start is, you said what's important to the customer. So the first question is, well, who is the customer, right? And so your product is right for the ideal customer. Your product is not right for everyone. There are people who should not buy your product. There are people who you should be marketing to. It doesn't serve them best. So who is your ideal customer? So doing, there's a lot of ways you can find that out. Diving into the analytics to see, who's visiting your website. You mentioned, I know you work with Part a lot and with marketing automation and CRM.
Totally.
The really nice thing about that tool is you can really determine a lot about your customers from them, right? So, for example, like something I like to do sometimes, and this is just anecdotal, you can't base everything this on, is you just go into Pardot and look at a record and think about, okay, this is a person, this is a human being. It's not just a database I'm emailing. Who is this person? What are they doing? Okay, look at these things they visited on my site. You can click that little button and see their LinkedIn, and you know what I mean? And you really try to get a sense. You want to, again, there's this artificial wall between us and customers. How can we break that down? How can we get more intimate and know them better? Another thing is looking at, if you're a B2B company or trying to get leads, who are those people who are coming in and getting leads? And within, automation platform, you could see the pathway. Okay, they searched and they came in on this page, and then that got them to go to this page and this page and this page, and then that got them to go here and actually sign up and want our email. And so that's what you kind of want to do. You want to do that one with all of your data. You've got your analytics data. You've got transactional data. But also, don't overlook having conversations, talking to people in customer service, talking to people in sales, talking to, frontline people who are working with customers, talking to customers themselves. customers who didn't buy when you have that opportunity. Looking at forums, looking at review sites, looking at social media, looking at all this stuff. What you want to get a sense of is, okay, who is my ideal customer? Who do I serve? And who do I not serve? And that is the very beginning of everything. So, I mean, when you are working with a company, looking in their CRM, looking in their marketing automation platform, what do you learn about a customer? How can you learn about the customer?
Yeah, I mean, you learn a lot. You learn about the setup of, do they have a sales team? Do they have marketing team? Is there one person doing everything on one of those sides? And do they talk? Are they working together or are they in silos? You're right. There's a lot of things you just can see from just looking at the setup. Are they new? And it's almost like for us, there's the almost two distinct personas of like the advanced marketer who knows this stuff, has most of it set up, needs some help, filling in the gaps, but then really wants to do the crazy stuff. Let's get into some multivariate. Let's go crazy. And then the other person is like, I'm brand new to this thing, which I've been there, and it's I'm brand new to this thing. What do I do first? And great. Here's what you do first, but not to confuse those two because they're in different places.
Right. And so that's great. So do you know, like, for example, also like who would be a bad fit for you as a customer? Like probably B2C company, I would think, maybe, or companies.
Yeah. B2C that has like a very inexpensive sale, right? Because sometimes we'll still work with like a very high consideration sale,
complex sale,
complex, like a university or college.
Sure.
That's great because you're going to spend a lot of time thinking about this really expensive decision. But I guess if you were selling some, shoes or something, that might not be on fleek.
Yeah, so that's a great example too. And that also, when we get to, can help with your copy on your website, right?
Yeah, right.
Where you can say, okay, here's who we serve. If you have a complex sale, B2B or B2C, we serve you. We could, help you do this and X, Y, and Z. Hey, if you're just, selling direct to consumers, or, you have a simple sale, you don't want us, right?
Yeah.
I think that helps the customers identify who's the best fit for them and who's not.
Yeah, just claim it. I know it's kind of weird and make you nervous to like isolate some group. It's like, hey, we work with B2B companies. We love that complex sale. We love that. That's what we do. Not so much the nitty gritty of like a split second decision, branded decision for B2C. It's not really our bag. Our bag is that nurturing, And so, yeah, just putting that out there to the universe so they're aware that if that's what they're looking for, great.
Right. And then it makes what you're doing much more powerful for them. Because then what you can do, so you mentioned your two audiences, you have like your advanced and your novice.
Yeah.
So then the question is, okay, start forming hypotheses, right? Not, again, doing that what we talked about before. That, I wouldn't do that. I like that. This is good. This is not. Start forming hypotheses. Okay, what do we know about these people? What can we guess, right? So for the advanced people, the hypothesis might be just, making this up. Like, okay, they've tried, other things and have failed. So they want to know what to do next. What's the advancing? They've already done the basic things and succeeded.
Right.
They've tried other things and failed. And so maybe that affects how you write your headline, you write your copy, you write this, right? So that's one hypothesis. But another hypothesis could be that, they've only done the basic things and now they're ready to do the next thing. And they've only had success so far, right?
Right.
And so those are two hypotheses. Now, how does that affect? Okay, now let me look at emails and my headline and my button copy and all these things. And how does it affect those messages I send out? I can split it. I can test it. I can do those two different things. And then not only do I have results, then I learn about the customer. I learn about, what? It seems like, a lot of them have failed a lot. And then, that helps me with my product offering because maybe that changes how I onboard someone.
Right.
And it helps me with my future marketing.
Got it. So we make a hypothesis. Could be this, could be this. Let's find out. Let's test, send emails or landing pages or other kind of messaging to test, see which one gets more of the result we're looking for. Is that where we're going?
Well, exactly, right. And that's where you break it down by, so all that data you were looking at before, all the types of things we talked about, you're hopefully, while you're building that ideal customer set, you're hopefully learning about your customer. You're building out a picture of who that customer is, right? So if you're actually interviewing and talking to your customer, or if you're looking in your CRM and you're seeing what are the different pathways customers have taken, what pages have they visited, what topics are those about, right? If you're looking at your funnel and seeing where's drop off, okay, it's over here. Why is the drop off here? You're starting to build a picture of those customers, right? But it's a cloudy picture. And the more then you form hypotheses and test, okay, well, they dropped off at this stage of my funnel. Is that because they think the product is too expensive? Or is that because, we're asking for some information on the page that makes them uncomfortable, like a social security number or something, right? Well, let's see. And then you test and see, like, okay, now I know more about it. Like, okay, they think the product's a little expensive. Well, Is that because they simply don't have the budget, or is that because we haven't communicated value well enough? Right.
Right.
So you go on and test future things. And then we can go to there are different elements. So like I said, we formed this patented methodology over the years of working with research partners and kind of getting in there individually and helping companies test to learn what works best for them. So I can break down a few of those different specific elements you might want to test and understand.
Yeah, this is the conversion index, right?
Yep. So we have so kind of like when we were talking before, I was saying, it's very interesting. Marketing is kind of a unique group in the business, right? So the manufacturing group in the business, right? They can't get a 5% conversion rate or a 20% conversion rate and be successful, right? So I wear contact lenses. I happen to live very close to, I'm here in Jacksonville, and the Johnson & Johnson's headquarters here for AccuView Visticon, and this is where they produce their contact lenses and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And I know they don't have a 50%, success rate, right? I don't get up in the morning. I don't put in one contact lens.
Like,
it works.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I put in the other one. Oh no, my eyes.
Right.
They'd be out of business, right? Manufacturing has a very, very, very high success rate, 99.9999.
Right.
And they have specific manufacturing techniques. They have a methodology that has made them that successful, right? It's not that there's this person's good at manufacturing, that person's bad. It's like, okay, we know the methodology, we go through and we do it. And so similarly for marketers, it's tended to be, this person's got the golden gut. They just get it. They understand the customer better. This person, they don't as much, right? But we formed a set of methodologies that you can go through. And again, it gives you a lens. You're not the customer. So it gives you a lens to be able to see the customer through. So one of those is the conversion heuristic. It's a little probably easier to actually see it.
Yeah. Looking at a bunch of calculus here on the page. I ran away from this in college, and you brought it back to me.
but I'll talk through it in a simple way. Make it.
Yeah. And we'll link to it in the show notes too. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That'll probably help people. But so what we're talking about is basically what we're trying to solve for is a probability of conversion, right? So we can't guarantee conversion. What we're trying to do is increase the probability of conversion by making some of these changes, right? And so the first thing we want to consider, the most powerful thing that affects conversion, is the customer's motivations, right?
Okay.
So we have that as a 4M on there. It's the most powerful thing, understanding the customer's motivations, right? And so I'll give you an example. There are many. So I'm a Pearl Jam fan, right?
Okay.
And so there are many things that would, stop you from going to a concert, right? So it could be like, there's a long line to get the tickets. There's a lot of traffic, this and that, right? The tickets are expensive and all that. So if it came to getting a chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A for my daughters, right? If the line's too long, if it's too expensive, I'll just go across the street. I'll go to, Subway or Moe's or whatever, right? But I have such high motivation to see Pearl Jam. I'll pay a lot for the tickets. I'll go downtown and fight all the traffic. I will, wait months for it. I will, do all of these things. And so there are other things we're going to talk about that you can optimize and help improve the situation for the customer. But if you understand their motivations and if you tap into them, that is the most powerful thing you can do. So when we get and talked about this ideal customer and this research and stuff like that, understanding and looking at, okay, for example, for a landing page, who is coming to this landing page? What are their motivations? Why are we coming here? And how can we better tap into that? That's, again, where you form a hypothesis. You come up with 2 different things, 3 different things. Okay, they're coming because of this. They're coming because of that. You can look at the last page they came from. You can look at, if you're driving them there from, let's say, a PPC ad or a display ad, Facebook ad. You can, okay, what did we say in the ad that made them get here? Okay, are we tying into that motivation here? Because sometimes, you click on an ad, you're like, oh, it's this. I click to get there. I'm like, well, where the heck is that thing?
Right.
Right. I clicked for this. I don't see it. It's not, it's not clear, and boom, you bounce. Right. And sometimes one team's working on the ad, one team's working on the landing page. So looking at what are their motivations? How are they getting in there? And then what can you test to learn about, okay, do I really understand their motivations and to serve those motivations better?
Right. Yeah. And it's 4, and to your point, and I think I read this, that because it's the most powerful, that will do crazy things. Sometimes with all the other friction, even though it's crazy. I mean, I was either last year or this year, I went to the Super Bowl. I just really, really, really wanted to go.
Awesome.
The Patriots were there, and I was like, I need to be there. And it was cold. It was Minnesota. I couldn't find anyone to go with me because the number of people that are crazy enough to spend the money on the ticket, the number of people that I knew, it didn't connect, right? So I'll just go and see what happens, and then craziness ensued. But yeah, something, just have that motivation, and regardless of what we encounter, the snow and cold weather, crappy weather in Minnesota in January, February. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense that it's so powerful. But also carrying on the reason you came here was X. So let's not drop that halfway through. Let's not promise you something on the ad and then just totally space out on the landing page. Because to your point, they're going to bounce.
Yep. You want to tap in that motivation. Same thing with email, right? Understand why do they sign up for that email list?
Email too, yeah.
Right. What are their motivations? And then how can I keep serving them with those emails, or understanding, even looking at what they clicked on and what they didn't. So I'm sure, if you set up automation paths, right? So for example, you might have an automation path for people who opened or clicked in a specific type of email. They might get a different next email than the people who didn't click in that email, right? So that's another thing you can do is you've got this set of emails we're sending, okay, this one, well, these people clicked. Well, now let's set them up with this drip campaign. These people didn't click. Well, let's now see if they're interested in this. Oh, that's their motivation. Well, they get this different drip campaign over here, right? So again, it's not thinking about, me and you might be the same customers of, a product or brand. We may have very different motivations. And if those brands can serve your motivation more directly and my motivation more directly, we're a lot more likely to keep being customers and to convert and to click through and do all of those things.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, what do you do if you only have 2 buyer personas? Well, I might be the same persona as you, but we may have different motivations, and that may either be a different persona or altogether, or we just are this, just different ways to approach that. And I love the idea of a smart drip campaign, and you're creating it. So you're trying to suss out what are the motivations, what is driving them to take action here, in case you didn't already know that from earlier. And, if not this, then go to this next one. If not that, that's cool.
Yeah. Or even seeing how motivated they are, like doing a welcome campaign. And so you got, 4 or 6 in the welcome campaign. And if someone has opened and clicked the first 4 and they're going through it, or 5 or 6, by that point, you kind of flag it up and like, we're going to reach out to them as humans. This is a pretty motivated person.
Oh, yeah.
They went through, they opened, they clicked on 6 emails in a row about this topic. They're probably a pretty good lead. Let's just reach out as humans and,
Totally.
So it's good. It's good being able to, and again, automation can really help with that. Your analytics platform can help with that. By testing, you can discover what their actual motivations are. But the second element we talk about is the value proposition.
Okay.
All right. So the motivation you can't control, you can't change. That's inherent in a person.
That's a good
You're
point.
trying to discover it and you're trying to tap into it. The value proposition, that's where you come in, right? You're helping to set the value proposition for your company, for your product, for all these different things. And so the value proposition, remember how we talked about ideal customer? That's so important to understand ideal customer. The value proposition is powerful for an ideal customer. The same value proposition that's powerful for this ideal customer is not going to work very well for that customer who is not ideal. So the value proposition is the answer to the question, if I am your ideal customer, why should I buy from you instead of any other company, right?
Yeah.
So again, if I'm your ideal customer. So for example, for you, if you said, because for the complex sale, we do X, Y, and Z, right? Well, so the person who doesn't have the complex sale, that's not a very powerful value proposition.
Right.
But again, good. That's
We're
good.
okay with that. Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell him anyway. He shouldn't be my customer. He should go with someone else. So then the important elements of the value proposition, this is a really good thing to test. So what we tend to do with our partners and with our services is we have an actual value proposition workshop where we kind of get everyone in the same room. After we've done a lot of background research to kind of help get an understanding of the company, the marketplace, it's very important to understand competitors. We get a lot of the key decision makers in the room. And it's very interesting when you do this, right? And then we're trying to look and break down what could the value proposition be. Because ultimately you want to test it, you want to decide by testing. But first, there are 4 elements to it, a powerful value proposition that you want to understand. So one is the appeal, right? It should be appealing. That means someone sees it and yes, they want it, right? Obviously, if it's not appealing, it's not going to mean much. But a lot of companies, they kind of tend to stop at appeal, right? They put out, again, world's best marketing summit. That's very appealing, right? But if you stop there, I don't think anyone's buying.
Right.
The other element is credibility, right? So if something is very appealing, but it's not very credible, not a lot of people are going to buy, right? So I've been definitely, earlier in my career, working with marketers or clients and stuff, and they say this and this and that, about their brand. Because, again, as we said before, one of those things is we have a different view of our company and our brand than people do.
Than they do, yeah.
Do these great things. And I'm like, well, I agree. But yeah, are people really going to, like, why should people believe this? Why should they buy into it? So I was early in my career starting to work with a startup. And, startups are great. There's great energy in them. And we're going to take on the world. We're going to conquer the world. We're the best thing ever. And so when I was coming on, they told me, okay, you're welcome to join, as a consultant. And they're like, but you got to understand this one thing. We're going to change and transform our industry and transform the world and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no. I said, I have to think the opposite. I was like, well, I hope that happens. I have to think, who the heck cares about you guys? Because I've never heard about you. Because every
Right.
customer and potential customer you're about to reach out to isn't thinking, these are the people who are going to change the world and take on Microsoft and Google.
Right.
They're thinking,
Yeah.
who are these jokers, right?
Right.
And so that's what you have to overcome. And that's where that credibility comes in. So you got the appeal, but why? Why is it credible? And one thing that can help is some quantification you bring in, right? So you can
Got it.
show, it's one thing I can tell you, for example, if you're selling a building, I can tell you, we have high-end finishes and, the nice building and whatever. Or I can tell you, we bought the building, we spent $3 million on the finishes alone to upgrade them. And then you can come to that resulting conclusion. And I'm not forcing it on you, right? I'm not trying to say, believe this, it's really nice. You come to that conclusion based on the data you're given, like, well, if they spent $3 million on the finishes, there's some pretty nice finishes, right?
Right.
So that's something you want to look at, how you can communicate in a way that customers accept it. Not that they're being like, hey, well, I don't believe you. So the two other elements to get in real quick are,
Sure. No, that's really
clarity. So if you don't clearly understand what you're saying, none of this matters, right? It's not going to be appealing or credible. So sometimes our marketing messages are over clever by half. They're, again, the on fleek thing, you send it to the wrong person, it's super clever. It's like,
done.
what are they even talking about, right?
Right.
So the clarity is important, and the exclusivity. So you could have a very appealing and credible value proposition, be clear, but if everyone else has it in the market, we call that a commodity, right? So what's exclusive? What's different about you, right? And so so we do in a workshop is you get together, you get all this, get the key people on the board. It's fun when you really do it well. You get these really healthy debates. Different people, they disagree on it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so I did it with one group, and the guy that sold sponsorships, was sure that that sponsorships were key to the company, right? And the person did the technology is like, well, no, our technology is the most compelling. And
Of course.
Get everyone on the same page, because if they're not on the same page after they leave the room, they're going to take the company in different ways. And then you test these, right? You test these different value propositions out there. You test them in your email. You test them in your landing pages, and you see, we think this is a valuable proposition, valuable value proposition. But what do our customers think, right?
Right. It's funny because none of that was coercive. And I was just writing an article the other day about the self-determination theory and human behavioral psychology, because we had a guest on here who had a bunch of scientists who were just helping her use human psychology. And one of those is just the element of control. We don't want to feel like we're being controlled or coerced to make a decision. And in the credibility, the fact that you just, here's a number, make the decision yourself. We did X, Y, and Z. We have 30 people that are all certified in Pardot. You make the call. Are we really experienced? You're damn right. But instead of me just telling you, you're a big kid, I'll let you make up your own mind.
Exactly. When you try to force something on someone, so I will say this is my flaw as a parent. Right?
Yeah.
Of course, you shouldn't be doing that. Try to tell you. When you try to force someone on that, they're going to resist. We have free will, and we're going to resist. People try to force us to continue. But when you lead them to it, when you say like, hey, let me present the evidence to you, here's the data in a way, you're making the decision. They accept it themselves. And then sometimes they defend that decision. They own it, and they say, wait a minute, I really believe in this. Let's move it forward. The best thing, you were talking about a plane company where you have the influencers and the decision makers, sounds like, right? So the assistant or the agent, whoever is the influencer, is actually going to pick the plane company. And then probably the rich person, whoever is actually buying, they're actually deciding to buy it, I would assume, right? So when you're getting those influencers on board, it's common in a B2B or complex sales situation. You want them to have sold themselves in a way so then they can actually sell that decision maker and be on board. So you're not forcing on them, selling them. They've accepted it enough where they're like bought in, and then they're with you and they're going to the decision maker. Those are the best B2B sales I've ever been in. When you've got those people on your team with you, yes, we got these guys. This is what we got to do.
We got to do this, guys. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Not just, well, I met these guys. If they have something interesting to say, hear them out. It's like, no, this is something we need to do. Go ahead, Casey, take it away. I was like, whoa. That's
right.
Great. Yeah.
Because when you did that, they had sold themselves. They had accepted it, and they had sold themselves there. If they were just like, oh, what'd you tell me again? Why are we supposed to do that? Oh, yeah. So Casey said we should do this. And no, they were like, hey, this is why I think we should do it.
Totally. You mentioned the kids thing. I'm with you on that one because my daughter, a little bit older, and, hey, bedtime, go brush your teeth, put your PJs on, hop to bed, right? Boo, 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 it's all good. right? My son, a little different. I don't know who he inherited this from. The jury's out on this one. But what we found recently with him, what was helpful was we were saying, like, look, hey, dude, you have three things: brush your teeth, put your PJs on, and clean your room. Which one do you want to do first?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to put my PJs on first. Like, okay, that sounds great. And then after that, I was like, what do you want to do next? He's like, I'm going to clean my room. Like, okay, all right, great. But to your point, just, I don't even know how that connects to marketing, but it was working, and it wasn't coercing. It wasn't telling him, because for his type, that wasn't working,
It's perfect. You gave him free will in the situation.
Yeah.
Right. And he got to control, and he got to decide, and he sold himself on, okay, the thing I should do is put my PJs on. It's the same as adults. So let me tell you, and you probably remember this too, the phone company was a monopoly, right? So I had here in Jackson, we had Bell South, and they could have been good or they could have been lousy. I couldn't really tell, but it just ticked me off that I had to have Bell South. So the second Vonage came out and that, VoIP phones came out, I switched to Vonage just because I made the decision, right? And so even like, you could sit there and you could be a marketer in a monopoly company and you're thinking like, well, we got a good thing going, or duopoly, or like a small, like that. And you think we got a good thing going. People don't have a choice. People always have a choice. And sometimes technology is eventually going to unbottle that choice. And you are going to, cable companies are facing that now too.
Cable companies, man, I can't wait.
Yeah. And you did not serve that customer. You did not give them a choice. They were not bought in, and boom, you are losing them left and right.
One time I went off to work, and we had some issue with cable, and my wife was like, she was going to call them. And so when I got home that afternoon, we didn't have cable anymore. I'm like, what happened? She's like, well, I didn't like what the person was saying on the phone, so I just got mad and said, cancel it. I was like, oh no. All right. And then eventually, but I had to go back on it because there's only one option, or at least there was at the time. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so here's another one.
Cool.
That you got to think through in testing is incentive.
Got it. So this is the 2IF part of your
2I minus F. Yeah. And it's important there because incentive is the element that is most used and abused by marketers.
Yeah.
So, because when you think about it, you got a goal to meet, you got to, I got to get so many leads this month, whatever. Well, let me just throw an incentive on top there. Hey, you get, meet our sales rep and you get a free $50 gift card or free shipping, whatever it is. And so I like to call incentive the bacon of marketing tactics. Because, so here's a quick cooking tip. I'm a lousy cook, but you can have a plain kale salad. You can have the most worst thing.
Yep.
Throw bacon in it, it's going to be better, right? Yeah. So that's what marketers do. They don't really understand the customer motivation, and they don't have a good value proposition. And, well, I got to get some leads in here. Let me just throw some incentives out there, right? Hey, sign up for our white paper or webinar. You can win a free iPad, right? And so the problem with incentive is I think a great example, if you remember American car companies before the crash about 10 years ago. So they would say, like Chevy, GM, buy our car, we'll pay you $3,000. Buy our car, we'll pay you $5,000, $6,000, cash back,
Right. They still have that.
Yeah. Well, shockingly, they went, bankrupt. We had to bail them out, and maybe they're heading there again because it's not an effective long-term sustainable tactic.
No.
Right? When you look at the car company, so I'll use Tesla as an example. Not that they don't have their issues with production, but marketing-wise, they have created such a powerful value proposition, right? They've pre-sold cars, 400,000 cars, before they could even make them.
Right.
Right. That is far more profitable.
Pretty baller right there. On fleek.
It's on fleek. Elon Musk is on fleek. So you get higher margins. It's more sustainable than how much can I bribe these customers with incentive.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't mean you shouldn't use incentives, but it should just be that little extra thing that tips people from being negative to being positive. So when you talk about friction, that we're going to get in a second, of friction, anxiety, those are those negative elements, right? What's that just little extra thing people need when they buy into the value and the motivation? They're on the fence a little bit. What's that little extra thing to tip them over? And that's how we recommend using incentive.
Sorry, I say instead of making it the main course.
Right.
Unless it's me, on the weekend with my son, no one's around to tell me no when I eat nothing but bacon for breakfast. It's not lunch, right? It's not lunch and dinner.
Right.
So
exactly. There's a good.
We're overusing it, the bacon, and at some point you don't want any more bacon. Well, I don't know if that happens, but you're not going to go to a restaurant and be like, yo, just give me, 90 slices of bacon. That's just
Right.
not happening. But that's probably what we're doing as marketers, right? Hey, we haven't proved anything. There's no value prop, no motivation, but here's a discount.
But exactly.
Discount on
So,
what?
and this is where testing can be so powerful, right? Where you can test. So if you've got that value proposition nailed down, you see like, okay, what is a 5 or 10% discount? What is it different? Like, what does that do to conversion? What does that do to help me out to tip it? And then you see too, ultimately, what you want to see is that ultimate ROI. What is my return on incentive?
Yes.
Right? What am I getting for that incentive? And making sure that you got your margin there, you still got your profits there, and that's where testing can help out.
Makes sense.
So those are positive elements. So the more incentive value proposition, more tied to motivation, the more likely people are to convert. But there are negative elements too. So anytime we're looking, if it's to open an email, to click in an email, to sign up for an email, to go to a landing page, there's this subtle kind of calculation we're doing. We're saying the value outweigh the cost, right?
Yeah.
And this isn't just money, right? Because if you click on an email, it doesn't cost money.
Right.
But does the value outweigh the cost for this action? So those are the positive elements that would say more value, but they're the negative elements you want to reduce the cost. And one of those costs is friction.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So the more difficult you make your process. So for example, for the B2B lead gen marketers, you're out there, you got your part out form, let's say on your web page.
Yeah.
How many fields do you have in that form? And what are you asking for? Right.
Right.
Because that's friction right there.
Totally.
You ask for just, first name and email address, you will likely get a lot more than if you have 20 fields in there. You're asking for their phone number. I don't want to ask for their fax number, what's their annual revenue and all these things.
Mailing address.
Right. So the more friction you have in that form, the less likely people are to convert. Now, here's the rub, right? The more friction you have, probably you're going to have better leads, higher quality leads going through there. Because remember, those are the people that have the motivation to go through that friction.
Right.
Right. The less friction you have, you probably have lower motivated leads. If I just have to put my name and email address, I might not care that much, but you're not asking for much, right? If I got to put all these things in, well, I'm not that motivated. So what we think of it as two dials, right? There's quantity and quality. So if you dial up the friction, you're going to dial down the quantity, but you'll probably dial up the quality. So you got to think of, in probably some of the firms you work with, how human is the sales process? How many sales reps do they have? How much do they want to have a high touch sales process? They've got tons of sales reps that they want to have interacting with customers a lot. Well, you can, have low friction. You get tons of leads in there, and then they're dealing with them. Maybe a lot of bad leads, but that's the model you're going with. If you have very few sales reps, you want some very high quality leads. I'm going to dial the friction up really high on that, and then you only got like the few best coming through. And again, this is a great thing to test.
Yeah.
Testing different fields, test 5, 7, or 9 fields. Test which forms you put in there. Do you need the phone number? Do you not? And when you talked about the marketing sales organizations, really working with that sales organization and seeing, they ask for the phone number on there. Do they need it? Are they using it?
Right.
Because if not, perhaps you take it off the form.
We bump into that all the time. People asking questions of things they don't even need to know, not realizing. And everyone has stats on this. Sirius, HubSpot, Marketo, Parta. They've all done the stats to show that. I mean, it's wild. It's something like 1 to 3%. Sometimes it can be the decrease in conversions you get with every new field you add on there. And and we bump into people oftentimes at the beginning where they have 12 fields on there because marketing had a few things they wanted to know. Sales had a few things they wanted to know. They thought it might be good to know the zip code. We're not going to use that for routing, but just in case we ever need to know that, it might be good to know. And then you end up with these gigantic forms. And then at this point, the friction outweighs everything. I see that. I'm like, I'm not filling that thing out on principle.
Yeah. Yep. That's a great example. Yeah. And then the last piece to consider, the other negative, is anxiety. So sometimes it's not just the amount of things you ask for, but it's what you ask, for example. So you could have one field on there. If that field is, my first name, or if that field is my social security number, I probably have a different reaction, right?
Right.
So you have a lot more anxiety with your social security number. And there's other elements of anxiety in the process. Anxiety of, okay, are you really going to deliver what you say you're going to deliver? If I put my phone number on there, are you going to be, calling me all the time? If I put my email address, are you going to be spamming me? So what elements can you test to reduce anxiety in there?
Interesting. Yeah, like those disclaimers that say, look, we don't spam. We're not going to share your information. Or like the idiots I bumped into the other day who were like, what's your annual income, your personal annual income? Like, who are you? It was a required field. So that didn't work out very well. But yeah, I mean, the anxiety went boop, through the roof. Like, why are you? We just met.
Yeah.
You're asking to marry me in some way, it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good example. And let's say, so I agree with you, but let's say you do need annual income for some reason that you
Some
absolutely have
reason.
to have it. Then tell them why. Like,
Right.
the
Good
reason we
call.
have annual income here is because we have 3 different levels of financial planners, and we want to know which financial planner to assign you to, right? So that may or may not, and that, again, that's a test. I'm not saying that will work. That's
Yep.
maybe something you test and say, okay, does that reduce the anxiety enough that's worth keeping there? Or to your point, we just met, maybe that's month 2 of
Right.
them, maybe that's an automated send month 2 once they've been on the list or something like that.
Right.
Or maybe that's if you use progressive profiling, for example, maybe
Totally.
that's step 3 of a, series of progressive profiling forms, so.
Yeah, totally. I think, thinking back, they used it to figure out if you're in like not qualified in sort of this junior class or this senior class. So in my head, I'm thinking maybe you could have just asked brackets
Yeah.
above this, below this. And to your point, here's why. That's brilliant. If I had seen a little thing saying, look, we're going to ask you this, don't worry, this never comes up again, but this is to let you know which program you might be interested in. Like, okay.
Well, because then it shifts. So what they're doing is they were very me centered. Right? They're focused on them. Like we said, it's that
Right.
problem. We have a different view of the company than they do. For us, those leads are so important, and it's very important that we qualify them there. The customer could give a crap, right? They don't care about your leads and where you get.
At
Especially
all.
you have to shift that focus from, okay, does the lead have to be here, 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 to, okay, let me test what would be best for the customer. Is it best for the customer that I ask that to help put them in the right place and they know that? Or is it best for the customer that I don't ask that yet? Again, it's a third progressive profiling form that they get, and I'm serving them over time until they see the value on it.
Totally. Totally. I love this. I love the idea of just being able to just test things too. One thing I wanted to ask you about is the idea of, statistical significance, the idea of if when I'm testing, are there number criteria I need to meet? And can those numbers trick me? I've seen a lot of folks make decisions off of like 10 responses. What's your take on that? Maybe just break that down.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So what we're just very, very simplify what we're trying to do when we're running an experiment, when we're testing, is we're saying, okay, we see this small slice of the world. Does it really represent the entire world? Right.
Right.
So we're essentially doing a sampling. So we're not saying that this happened or not. What we really want to understand is what is our customer and human behavior? What can we learn from them? So does this represent that? So there are some things that we call validity threats to make sure you run a valid test. So one is the numbers. Let me mention a few others before we
Yeah.
get to the numbers. So one of them is called history effect. So if something happens in the passage of time to affect the test. So for example, if we, let's say I have a tourism site that sends people to Egypt, for tourism,
Nice.
and so, but then we run a test, and during that test, there's a big news story about a terrorist attack in Egypt or something like that.
Mm,
So then I have to question, well, is that really a valid test, or did something happen that's outside of the test that really changed people's just their overall motivation in that time period in that week for Egypt? Maybe a month later they forget about it,
makes
right?
sense.
So one of the things we have to see, like, okay, what's going on history-wise? There's another element called the instrumentation effect. So if we see numbers in a platform, that doesn't mean that that's the thing that actually happened, right? So at a
Interesting.
basic level, you have to make sure instrumentation is working correctly. So one thing that can happen, for example, let's say you have 2 different pages. Let's say it's maybe a mobile test, and this page has some very big images and it loads slowly, right?
Interesting.
And so maybe the difference isn't what's on the page, there's an instrumentation effect. This page loaded a lot more slowly, so people didn't use it. So one way you can overcome that fact is run what we call a double control.
Hmm.
So you essentially run a split test, but it's 2 of the same thing. And so you're just trying to get a sense of like, okay, is everything working okay?
Right.
And just understanding too what's going on your website. For that specific example, you want to run some like site load tests to see if there's a different site load between the 2 different pages. Um, so another thing to keep in mind is selection effect, right? So it's not enough
Mm,
to have 2 groups. Those 2 groups should be random, right? So if you said, for example, this would be the worst selection you can do. Okay, everyone who's a hand raiser is going to get this email,
mm,
and this email we're going to send to the list we bought, and
right.
then which copy worked better? Ooh, the copy to the hand raisers. Well, did it work because that copy was better, or because those were different people? When we talked about motivation, the hand raisers probably had a higher motivation than
Yeah.
the group that was a blind list. So what you can do, fortunately, you can do it in a platform like Pardot. You can
Yeah.
randomly split into two different lists. Make sure it's a random split of those lists, and it's true randomness. And so the effect isn't that the populations are different.
Got it.
But the last thing is, as you talked about, this statistical significance. So there's a lot of math involved. So there's not like a specific number I can give you, but I want to explain the factors that you have to determine, right?
You can Google the math, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, and we have like testing tools and stuff. We can even maybe
cool.
I can send you a link where you can like
we'll link to them.
plug in the different numbers because you have to kind of predict. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the factors that would be involved in it.
Sure.
One is the difference in two things, right? So if you have, let's say, 1% conversion rate and 2% conversion rate, you're going to need more people to figure out if it's different than if you have a 1% and a 20% conversion rate.
Interesting.
Right?
The bigger the result change, the delta, but the bigger the dramatical increase or decrease in the number, the less
samples you need.
Right. But as that gets smaller, now you're going to need to see a lot more. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because think about it like flipping a coin, and you want to see if it's a fair coin. If you flip a coin 10 times, right, and 9 times it lands on heads, well, maybe it's kind of weighted towards heads, right?
Right.
But if you flip a coin 10 times and 6 times its head and 4 times its tails, that's maybe more likely it's going to be random, right?
Right.
So what we're trying to do with statistical significance is we're trying to fight randomness. Because again, remember, we're trying to see that this group, we can never test with the entire population. That would be impossible. We can never test with everything that could possibly happen. We're just taking this sliver. We want to say this sliver represents everything else. But sometimes random events happen, right? True. The black swan events, different things happen, and we're trying to see if that didn't happen. So one, you want to see the difference between the two things. The other thing is the sample size. It's how many people it goes to. So, for example, if you're just emailing to 100 people, you're probably a lot less likely to get a significant sample size than if you're emailing to like 100,000. So there's a difference in there, probably around 10,000 or so, where you get enough people that it becomes valid. But again, that comes down to the statistical math. We've got a tool I can send you. And the last factor you want to understand is the level of confidence. So what we recommend is a 95% level of confidence, right? Okay. So when you talk about certain safety things or manufacturing or drug testing, that could be 99.9999% level of confidence. Right. But the higher level of confidence you want you to have, you need more samples and bigger difference, right?
Yeah.
So interesting. When you're talking about a business decision, the risk is probably lower than someone dying in a plane crash, right?
Right.
So 95% level of confidence is pretty good, where you're pretty sure that this happened and it's not randomness, but it's also low enough that it's realistically achievable. You could end up getting, it's not a magic number. You could end up getting 93% or 91%, and then you're still making a business decision. It's still better than
the call. Yeah.
Right. And saying like, okay, this is close enough. We think this probably happened. And the challenge of all this is you could run a test and you could see numbers in your platform and you say, this was 10%, this was 8%, 10% is better. But this is where your eyes deceive you, right? So I like to give an example of when it sounds like you have kids too, right? So
yeah, totally. Yep.
My kids, so put them in car seats and all that stuff. And so my mom's talking to me. She's like, "Oh, you're crazy." She's like, "When you were kids, you guys didn't have car seats. You just float around in the back seat, and you're still alive."
Right.
And so they got me thinking of like, well, what you're saying is true, right? You can't argue that's true.
That's true.
We didn't have car seats. We are still alive today. And then I'm like, but it's not though, right? And so why can't I believe my eyes that that's true? And then I realized the difference is sample size. So my mom had a sample of 2. She had my sister and me, right? We floated around the backseat, never died, right? So from her learned observation that need car seats.
Right.
When you look at the studies, once you get to a statistical sample size across enough people, you see, okay, enough times it's going to happen where they're going to get in a car accident, they're going to get hurt. When you A/B split test it, it's less likely to happen if they're in a car seat that they're going to get hurt, right?
Right.
So that can happen. Our eyes deceive us, right? And that's where we have to go to the math and understand, the statistical sampling size and understand, okay, this actually represents the real population.
Right. And I think I remember like a Freakonomics, either a podcast or a show was on this where they, I don't know if you do the Freakonomics guys, the economists.
I interviewed Stephen Dubner. Yeah.
Did you see? There you go. You really know them. So they did a like an episode on the car seats, and apparently it
Oh,
is
really?
it is helpful, and it does increase safety right up into toddlers. And when it gets to toddlers, apparently it doesn't matter anymore. By the way, anyone listening to this, go look it up. Don't quote me. Don't put your child not in a seat or in a seat. Anyways, refer to Freakonomics. But they found that those didn't matter as much. Now my kids are a little bit older, but we still have them in like boosters. But in the back of my mind is Dubner and friends over at Freakonomics said that is basically to make mom feel better. But early on, when they were really strapped in there, that was actually helpful. So yeah, it's fascinating. To your point, you can't just what you're looking at in your sample size of you and your friends, or your kids.
Yeah. Well, so you bring up a great point. So here's another point: is you can statistically learn something in a test and learn that it's true, like the toddler seats. But
Yeah.
you can decide that's not right for your brand, or you're not comfortable with it, right?
Right.
So there are definitely times where we test with a company and we find this would work better with that. But then they also have to make a choice, like what is their value proposition, what is their brand, and does that work for them or does it not? Kind of like, with your toddler, yeah, the numbers tell us this, but this doesn't work for us. We still want the toddlers in the car seats. You're deciding what your value proposition is. Yes, this could work, but it's not who we are. We're deciding not to do it.
Right. Making that call.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been really cool, man. Who are you? How did you acquire this amazing knowledge set? And just, I mean, you seem very plugged in to all of the numbers and to testing and all of this.
Well, I've been fortunate. So I've been at MECLABS Institute here for 9 years. And so it's a lot of fun what we do. I mean, we're a teaching and learning organization. So we're learning every day, and then we get to go on podcasts like this and, teach people. So that's been very exciting. That's how I learned, a lot of this stuff specifically. And, we get to see how we work directly with big companies. We also work with startups and working with them and testing and seeing what works with their audience. And then not just to test and learn to with their audience, but to learn about customer behavior, to come up with some of the methodologies we talked about, and then to be able to teach it. So that's a super exciting thing.
And did you start out when you were like 12? Were you like, let me go, sell raspberries in the neighborhood and or observe people doing this and that? Like, where did all this come from? Take me back.
It was gooseberries, actually. I
imported
Belgian gooseberries and went door to door and said, it's gooseberry season.
You son of a bitch. I knew it. I knew they were elsewhere.
I think probably two of the formative, when I look back, two of the formative things that probably got me here in a way were one of them. I remember when, it was like enrollment day at college, and I went to University of Florida, and it's a big school. There's like 100 majors or 200 majors. I'm trying to decide on a major.
Yeah. Geez.
And, my heart was in film. I really wanted to do something creative. But I wanted a job after, like my mom hadn't gone to college. It's a big deal for me to go to college. I want a job coming out of here. And so I was like, well, business is probably the responsible thing. So then I saw advertising. I was like, well, this kind of splits the difference. It's like you can get a job when you get out, but you get to be creative. And so I'm very fortunate. I'm, like over 20 years in now. And to have a career where you can do something creative, with your creative skill set, it's super fun and fulfilling. And, so what I do now and, creating content and teaching about marketing and learning about marketing, there's a fun creative element to it.
Yeah, totally.
I think the other element too, thinking back is, so when I came back freshman year, I came back home, I had to work over the summer to make money to go back. And, living where I did in Daytona, there weren't a ton of good jobs, for a college student over the summer. And so one of the best paying ones was being a telemarketer.
Yeah.
So my job was I would call people and try to get them to go to an appointment to learn about timeshares. And then that was a separate thing, right? This is the sales process where they work. There was someone else at the, that sell them on the timeshare there or whatever. And so, so I went there and, I didn't have a lot of experience in this stuff, but I'd go, there's a script. And the way the script roughly worked was, first you do a qualifying call, but then it's along the lines of, hey, you want a trip. You want a trip to, and the woman who trained me was just very good with this sweet voice. I'm in beautiful sunny Florida. I just went to the beach this morning, and you want a trip to Florida, and you have 4 days and 3 nights, and even a Red Lobster gift card and all this stuff. And so, it was done in a legal way where I don't think they actually said win, but, they got that across. And so it kind of it didn't really resonate with me or feel quite right, because that's not, I didn't really win a trip. And so I just started kind of going off script and just being really straightforward and honest with them and saying like, hey, here's the deal. I work for this company. They sell timeshares. If you want to go and listen to this thing for 90 minutes, they're going to give you a free hotel stay in Florida. And if you don't want to do that, I understand not everyone does. It's, you know, and
Wow.
so the interesting, and it
That's
ended
so
up working
honest and
really well.
transparent. Yeah.
Well, that gets to kind of where we are today, where we talk about customer first marketing, where we're trying to talk about
Right.
discover your ideal customer, tell them, you know, how you serve them, tell them how you don't serve them, and let them decide if it's a right fit for them. Don't force it on them. Let them decide it's a right fit for them. Because a funny thing happened, because so the way that the actual process worked, you know, if you got, I think, 4 shows in a week, then you got a bonus. And I was in the bonus like every week that summer.
Nice.
Because what they had to do is they had to go to the thing. And then, so on the phone with them, you booked an appointment, but then they actually had to show up to the thing and then get through there. And then that's how you got paid. If there were a no show, you didn't get paid.
Really? Wow.
Right. And so I realized I could, and a good telemarketer could convince them on the phone to make the appointment. I could get you would not get off the phone without making an appointment.
Totally.
But then in a few days, you'd realize, what the heck happened? I'm not going to that. So it worked a lot better. And it just kind of felt ethically right is, I tell you what the deal is. You sold yourself on it. I was like, hey, Casey, here's what it is. You show up to this, you get this. Works for some people. Some people love it. Some people are like, I would never do that. Which are you? And then a lot of people are like, that's not me. Goodbye. That's fine.
Cool.
I don't need you. You're not my ideal customer.
You just saved 5 minutes or 10 minutes from talking to the person who's never going to do it.
See, exactly. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Even with their marketing, they're spending all this time on people that aren't going to buy their product. It's a waste of time. So I had that shift. I had a certain amount of time. Why am I talking to this person who's never going to buy? I could force them to try to convince them. So anyway, long story short, you know, I went through a lot of people, but I got the people who are like, yeah, I'd do that. And they had a very high percentage of showing, and, you know, and then I ended up getting paid. And I just kind of learned it. I mean, it was something I learned at an early age, which more kind of, especially here with research, I figured out is that element of customer first marketing, deciding who your customer is, who it isn't, and then presenting them, you know, an honest way of understanding your value. It's very effective because, like we were talking about earlier, then they're like, yeah, that's a fit for me. Not I was forced into this. And like with a lead, I'm going to drop out in the middle anyway because I never wanted to do this, and you just talk me into it.
Right. Yeah, totally. Totally. Like not coercing people at this point, but just actually just being straight with folks. You know, and it sounds like you were actually experimenting from an early age. You know, you were doing sales and marketing experiment. You were doing what you're doing now, but just from an early age. But it takes someone to be like heads up enough. Like I can just make these calls, go through the routine, but you're like, look, this is getting a little boring, and this feels a little greasy and slimy. So what can I do, you know, to help people out and at the same time, you know, be a little more successful and learn something here? And you did from that kind of experience. That's really cool.
I'm glad you say that because, you know, here's something I thought is if only we had A/B testing in real life. You know what I mean? Because the great thing when we talk about A/B testing, again, it can sound so boring, but it's a great chance to say, well, what if? With reduced risk too, because you're only doing it to a certain set. So when you think about all those key decisions you made in your life, like what am I going to do after high school? You know, who am I going to marry, my high school sweetheart, or, you know, the girl I met later? Or should I buy this car or that car? Or, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Could you imagine? And I look back too, you know, I bought this car and, you know, I went to the school, I did whatever. And I look back and I'm like, was that the right decision? I'm like, well, it kind of seems so, but it was not an A/B split test. I didn't see an alternative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what you could do with marketing, especially with digital marketing. You could say, hey, what if you try these things out and you see, well, that one did work better than this one, you know? Right. So in that perfect world case, we could take all our decisions. The next car I buy, tell you what, I'm going to buy 3 cars. I'm going to split test it. And 5 years from now, I'm going to know which car was the right car to buy.
Yeah. Unless this is a simulation and this is one of our A/B tests right now.
There you go. We're having a totally other conversation, a parallel universe. We see how that one works.
That's right. People are like, this is descending rapidly. But, you know, one thing I just came to mind, you know, I sold tuxedos in college at bridal showers. So I show up, they put me in a tuxedo, and I'm standing there at the booth, and all the brides flock into this bridal event, bridal expo, and there's like, they're all running around. Sometimes they have husband or fiancés in tow, sometimes they don't. And they get to me and I say, you know, do you have your tuxedos figured out? Do you have your penguin suits all ready for the big day? You know, and And so our job there, similar to what you were talking about, was to not get people to buy anything there, but we wanted them to come to the store and check things out. And what was really interesting about the company I worked with was there was a little bit of a hurdle we had to get over. None of the other companies did this in the tuxedo realm. They would just say, "Here, sign this thing, come to the store." But what this company required was a totally refundable $10 deposit.
Oh, wow.
And the idea was, come to the store, see what you like. You get all these discounts you wouldn't normally get because we're competing with all these other tuxedo people. You won't get that in the store, but you'll get this now. And this will never expire. You bring this to the store. If you like what you see, great. If you don't, here's your $10 back. But it was one of those things where, the whole point was just to get you into the store and not have you not delay on it and putter around. But to your point, each one was like a test, and you start, learning lessons, and that the idea of people aren't interested, not trying to beat them up over it. Because early on, I wasted a lot of time trying to convert everyone, and then eventually the owners, you're spending a lot of time on people that already told you they're not interested, and how much more time could you spend with everyone else that actually is interested if you switch that up. But anyways, I love it. If anyone could do that, or if I could recommend people do something at any point really in their career, is to get in a place where they have to try different things and test things out and experience, same situation over and over again and try to make it different every time.
Well, it's what makes marketing exciting. I mean, that job sounds cool in a way because
Totally.
it's human behavior. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're not just talking about getting leads and putting things in the CRM and stuff. We're talking about understanding human behavior. And I mean, that's the cool. I mean, women who are brides and about to get married, I'm sure there's a whole lot of human behavior going on that you're figuring out there. So yeah. And I didn't realize you were a male model, so that's cool stuff.
Well, tuxedo model, what can I say? Nice to meet you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been great, man. I don't know if you looked at the clock, but time is just like
I got the big water bottle. I told you, and I know you got this was a 2 water bottle.
2 water bottle, right? Yeah, and 1 cup of coffee. Served us well. Thanks again for coming. This has been awesome. And I get the sense that this is just the tip of the iceberg of the information that we've learned here in just a second. So maybe throw out some links, to some of these tools, where can people go to connect with you, but also with MECLABS and some good next steps.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, we're a teaching institution, so we have a lot of this available for free online. You can go to MECLABS.com, MECLABS.com, and you can see, there's a lot of free information on there. Our primary publishing websites are Marketing Sherpa and Marketing Experiments. So you can go to marketingsherpa.com, marketingexperiments.com. Again, tons of free information on there. And I'm on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. I always love connecting with people and all that stuff too. So
awesome. We'll definitely put those links on the show notes so people can connect. And they can send you different messages and test and see which one works the best.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, man. This has been awesome. I know you're going to go hit the beach later, probably. Well, it's not snowing up here yet, but it will probably tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Yeah, it was great being on. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, hey, to everyone hearing this, if you learned anything or picked anything from this, and you have to be crazy if you didn't, because I have like 3 or 4 pages of notes, then share this with someone else and get this information to them so they can learn from it too, and maybe do some testing themselves or better understand the numbers that they're seeing from the test they're currently doing. But this has been great. And so for everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode. This has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all later.